Alright, so some of you may remember around 6 months ago there were some rumors flying around in regards to a brand new AAA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that was in development. I made a video on that news and we all kind of speculated on what this game could be. Would it be an open world action game? Would it be a side-scrolling beat 'em up? Or would it be something in the vein of the Batman Arkham games? Well, we got our answer. It turns out this new TMNT game is going to be an adaptation of the very brutal, well-written, and illustrated story, The Last Ronin. Now this news comes to us from Polygon, who got the opportunity to sit down with Doug Rosen, who is the Senior Vice President for Games and Emerging Media at Paramount Global. And for those of you who do not know, Paramount are the current rights holder for the Ninja Turtles brand. So anything Ninja Turtles that's going to happen within the next few years, it's going to come to us from Paramount. And what's really interesting here is that although he says this game is a few years away, he likens it to the most recent God of War games, the over-the-shoulder third-person perspective games, which we will get into in a little bit, but that's going to be really interesting. Now, before we dive deeper into that, he mentioned something towards the end of this article that I think is actually really cool and really interesting. Rosen says there are opportunities for multiple TMNT games aimed at both young and more mature age groups, and that Paramount can take multiple approaches to the franchise and not dial back to make the game something it shouldn't be, which is really fantastic. It's nice to know that they're taking chances with a brand like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and making things that sure, kids and families can enjoy, but also an older, more mature demographic can enjoy as well. It's something that I kind of hope they continue to do with a franchise like Power Rangers, which I'm a huge fan of. That brand new trailer for the Netflix special Once and Always looks fantastic. I cannot wait for that. They're actually using the word kill in the universe of Power Rangers, which is massive, so that's going to be exciting, and I hope they take a more mature route with Power Rangers going further. But getting back to TMNT, it's interesting that he says that because it shows how much they respect the source material, in my opinion. Now, I personally am familiar with The Last Ronin. I read those comics, and I do not want to spoil the story for anybody who comes across this video. All I will say is that it is brilliant, it's beautiful, it's heartbreaking, but it's also just really engrossing. It's one of the best turtle stories I've personally ever read, and it's definitely one of the more iconic stories. Now, the basic premise of the story, which I can talk about, is that it focuses on one turtle in particular, but this turtle is utilizing every single weapon we've come to know: the nunchucks, the sais, the staff, and the dual-wielding katanas. And it takes place in this semi-futuristic post-apocalyptic world where everything is just destroyed and people are constantly fighting mutants. It's a really well-done comic. I would encourage anyone to go out and look it up and read it for yourself before the game actually comes out. And putting two and two together, likening this game to God of War, having it be based on The Last Ronin, means that they might actually have a much more violent depiction of the Ninja Turtles with this game. And if you've played the most recent God of War games, they're brutal. They're incredibly fun. I love the combat in those games, but they're brutal. You're cutting enemies' limbs off and heads off and ripping enemies apart and kicking them off ledges and just disemboweling them and doing all kinds of really cool, crazy execution style moves. So it's going to be cool to see if this game ends up being M-rated, and I kind of feel like it might have to be in order to do that story justice. And with that being said, my mind is going crazy thinking about combat in that game. Now, I love the God of War combat. My one critique on the combat, though, is sometimes Kratos doesn't feel as fast or as agile as he should. Now, with this being a Turtles game, you're playing as a ninja, for Christ's sake, so I'm hoping that it is very similar to God of War, but I'm hoping that the turtle you're playing as will be much faster, much more agile, and will have the ability to actually jump around the environment and do some really cool acrobatics, maybe some parkour during battle. And that's one thing you cannot do in the God of War games as Kratos, is jump. There's no jump button, unfortunately. You got a really cool block button, there's a great parry system, there's a skill tree that allows you to upgrade your weapons and your armor and all of your really cool abilities. So my mind is just kind of going crazy right now of all of the cool possibilities we could have in this new Last Ronin video game. And I really cannot wait to see what they do. Unfortunately, the studio developing it is unnamed, but hopefully they can do this story justice and have it look and play as well as something like like God of War. So here's crossing your fingers that Paramount recognizes what a cool opportunity this really is, and they just pump money into this project. That's pretty much the video. I am Curious Corduroy. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of this news? Are you a TMNT fan? Did you read The Last Ronin? Are you really curious to see how this game's gonna come out? Or are you kind of disappointed that they're taking the God of War approach? Let me know in the comments down below. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.